I would say Mbappe's taking the easy way out. Just like I feel like Kevin Durant made a weak move going to Golden State.
But I'd rather go on a super team, win, have some people not respect me, than stay in my current situation and never win.
The 90s Bulls, Golden State Warriors, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich. These are just some examples of what fans describe as super teams. They dominate their sport, which leads to a lot of love from fans, but equally as much hate. In this video, we talk about whether super teams ruin their league and if its players taking the easy way out. So for me, when I think about super teams, I think about European football, European soccer. This idea of super teams is basically an expectation because the best teams in Europe tend to have the richest owners who just keep buying the best players. And so you end up with like the Manchester Cities, PSG, Bayern Munich, basically win their leagues year after year after year. Well, obviously we're in Canada and we're more used to the North American model, which has like salary caps, which try to curb the idea of like a super team being created. But obviously over the years, I think about the NBA, we've still seen them even with salary caps. But the one thing I always notice is that a lot of fans hate super teams and some of them feel like it ruins the league. So I was wondering where you guys land on that. Do you feel like super teams ruin the league?
I don't think super teams ruin leagues. It definitely has an impact on competition, and it could devastate the competition if you gather all the best players and put them on one team. And at the beginning of the season, everybody knows who's going to win, or at least get to the finals, get to the championship. That, in some ways, yes, it hinders competition. But does it ruin the league? I don't believe so, because leagues, specifically basketball, thrive on stars and storylines. The last 15 years, the highest rated NBA final series have been 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013. 2010 was, I believe, the Lakers. So they got Kobe. So we all know how the Lakers and Kobe do. Now, 11, 12, 13, what was that? That was the Heat and Miami and LeBron. And that is a super team that people hated. Like, people were so upset about that. I remember that moment. But their ratings went through the roof because people were either tuning in to cheer them on, to see them lose, or just to see the collective, right?
But I think it comes down to what is ruining the league, because what you're describing is fans enjoying it. But it does, I guess it depends on what you're defining as ruin the league, because some people will still say that's ruining competition. You made a point about stars. People want to watch stars. You're still going to have, there were stars on Boston. There were stars on Dallas. They weren't.
Ruining, it means like dollars, eyeballs, sponsorship is decreasing. That's in some ways, quote unquote, ruining the league.
It's an interesting point because I feel like I can kind of see different sides to it, because if you want to say, does the super team ruin the league? If you're talking about ruining the league in terms of the competition and in terms of it being more unpredictable in terms of who's going to be the champion at the end, then you could say, okay, in that sense, then yeah, maybe super teams ruin the league, because in I want to say basically from 2010 to 2014, we knew that the big three Heat were going to be involved. We knew they were either going to be in the finals, or we knew at the very least they're going to be in the conference finals. And then once Golden State became a dynasty, we knew, especially when Kevin Durant went there, we knew, okay, so at the end of the year, we know it's going to be Golden State against whoever comes out of the East. So in that sense, in terms of competition and in terms of fans feeling like their teams have a chance, then you could argue, okay, super teams ruin the league, right? But I also see it from the aspect of interest. And to me, the league seems to be more interesting when there is some sort of juggernaut team that either you're rooting for or that you're rooting against. Last season with Denver winning, and then this season with Boston winning, me personally, it wasn't as interesting, even though it was more wide open. It still felt like Boston, even though they were a great team, I still felt like, yeah, somebody could beat them, like it didn't feel like it was a foregone conclusion. So in that sense, as a fan, you do want there to be some sort of mystery. Like when you mentioned the soccer example in the beginning, if that was like, if the North American leagues were set up the way soccer is set up, where the richest owners can just buy all the players and put them together, then I would say yes, it ruins it. I personally, I would not like that.
I gave the example of the highest rated series in the last 15 years, 10, 11, 12, 13. Then 14 and 15 drop. And then 16, 17, 18, it comes right back to the 13, 12, whatever. So what does that say? Super teams create interest because people want to root for them or people want to root against them.
A lot of people like to think, okay, if a super team is only when, say, free agents come together and then that makes a super team. But if the team was good enough to just draft them and these players become stars on their own, then that's not a super team. I disagree with that. So to me, I only look at the talent on the roster. So for me, like San Antonio, for example, I would consider San Antonio back in when they beat the Heat, or when they faced the Heat in like 2013, 2014. To me, it looked like these were two super teams coming together. They just came together different ways. So Miami came together through free agency, adding LeBron and Bosh. But then on San Antonio's side, you had Duncan, you had Kawhi, you had Ginobili, you had Parker. Those are four Hall of Famers. So to me, if the talent is there, that's a super team. So I don't care, because I think the reason why people like to focus on free agency is, for whatever reason, a lot of people don't like players being able to choose where they're going to go. I think there's a different conversation there that needs to be had about why is it that we care more, or people dislike it more, when players are the ones making their own decision, as opposed to when it's the front office making the decisions. That's a whole different conversation, but I feel like that plays a role into how people view these things.
Yeah, but I think that, to your point though, it's this idea of the competition. If you're choosing, like, it's one thing if you didn't have a choice and you were sent there, but if you're choosing to pair up with other stars, then people feel like you're taking the easy way out. I gave an example before. I was talking to Emmanuel about, in soccer, Mbappe. He's a big one. So right now, people feel like Mbappe is the best player in the world. Obviously, it used to be like Messi, Ronaldo. They're older now. So now people are feeling like it's Mbappe. And he was part of PSG, Paris Saint-Germain, and he's joining Real Madrid for next season. And Real Madrid just won Champions League. They won La Liga. And Real Madrid already has a bunch of stars. And so a lot of people are saying, like, they don't need, like, Real Madrid doesn't need Mbappe. He doesn't need them. Like, he's taking the easy way out. I think that's what people have an issue with. They're saying about
easy way out, Abby? Do you think he's taking an easy way out?
Mbappe?
Yeah. What's your opinion?
He's won everything in terms of trophies except for Champions League. And he joins the team that just won Champions League. Like, it kind of does seem. It does seem like you're taking the easy.
So you agree with Vincent then, is what you're saying. So you agree that he's taking the easy way out, and because he's going there as a free agent, quote unquote, is not the right way to go about building a super team. That's your perspective on it, right? What he's trying to say is management has been building. Like you talked about Boston. Boston came together. Yes, Miami came together because of Boston. Boston came together because of Detroit before that. Rasheed Wallace, Tayshaun Prince, Chauncey Billups, right? So you can go all the way back, but I think to your point, people have an issue with it when the players are exercising the control and kind of manufacturing the team. Me personally, I you know what? In some ways, I have an issue with it too. Like, I gotta be honest. You're going around the normal process. You know what I'm trying to say? What's that?
You're gaming the system.
You're gaming the system in order to get your ring. And why? Because everybody puts pressure on getting a championship and all that kind of stuff.
For me, it's a complex situation, because when LeBron and Chris Bosh got together in Miami, I felt like they were getting together because they wanted to game the system. Yeah, they wanted to be able to be like, LeBron said it, not one, not two, etc. They're thinking, who's going to beat us, right? But then they actually saw, no, this stuff is hard. So even though they went to 4 straight finals, they only won 2 of them. And that just goes to show that how tough it is to actually win. And then when we go down the line and we look at super teams, I think the reason why I have an issue with Kevin Durant and why most people have an issue with Kevin Durant is because the Warriors were already loaded. The Golden State was already winning 73 games. They were already one of the greatest teams of all time. And then Kevin Durant leaves another great team in OKC to come hop on top of them. So that was piling on. So to me, there's a difference between having a super team and then having an all-time great pile on top to an already dynastic team. So it sounds like Mbappe to me is doing what Kevin Durant did. Because I'm not as familiar with the soccer situation, but based on how you described it, I would say Mbappe's taking the easy way out, and I would say it's a weak move. Just like I feel like Kevin Durant made a weak move going to Golden State.
So like do you think like retroactively, if the team doesn't end up doing as good as you expect, or like does it still end up counting as a super team now? Because I'm thinking about, I know I said like easy way out, but if in the end you don't win, was it the easy way out? Because then it shows that no, the competition is actually really tough, and this is why they wanted to go.
I think it's a super team that failed. I think that's what it is. I think the Heat were super teams. They won 2 and lost 2. Is that a failure? I mean, most teams would say, let me get to the final 4 times in a row and win half of them. I mean, but in terms of winning every year, yes, it was a failure. And he leaves and then goes back to Cleveland. That also was a super team. Was it the level of Golden State? No, it wasn't the level of Golden State. There's levels to the super teams, but it was also a super team. LeBron goes against him, but 2 of his super partners get hurt right away. Right. So that doesn't allow us to have the matchup that we want to see. And then Golden State made it look pretty easy and just did what they needed to do with them. Right. So I just think that once Kevin Durant joined that team with all his accolades and the fact that Golden State had already won that very year, it's not like they won 2 years prior. It was greasy. Like it was a bad move, and he will always be criticized for that. And that's why you see Kevin Durant now leaves Golden State, goes to Brooklyn because he wanted to do his own thing. Now I want to go to Phoenix. Like he's trying to do what Kobe did when he ran Shaq out of town. Like Kobe ran Shaq out of town, created a lot of hate, but then he won himself again. Not once, but twice. I think Kevin Durant's trying to win without joining Golden State to prove, yeah, like, look at me. I can do it. I'm that guy. Even though he was the best player on that team, he's never going to get the full respect.
The risk of doing the whole super team thing is, like you say, you might lose respect. And Kevin Durant, like LeBron James, he fully got his respect in 2016 when they came back from down 3-1 against Golden State. It's like, at that point, there was nobody who was like hating on LeBron James anymore. Like you could see the conversation had changed on him. Kevin Durant hasn't had that opportunity because ever since Golden State, he hasn't been able to win.
Is it worth it? Do you feel like it's worth it for players to join super teams if it means they can win a championship, but the downside is people may not respect them anymore? Like what's happening with Kevin Durant.
You win, people will respect you. Like Kevin Durant, like, yes, people dissed him and saying whatever. But listen, before Kevin Durant went there, like the way I felt about this guy, I'm like, really? This guy? Like, you're going to join this team? You got Westbrook. You were up 3-1 on them. Like the way I felt about him was different at the end when he won 2 finals MVP, pulling up on LeBron, hitting the 3 in his face. I felt like, yeah, he did join that team, but this guy's bad. He's a bad, bad man. So, at a certain point, winning, you have to respect the winning. If you win, ultimately, you will get a certain level of respect. Would you get all the respect? No. But I'd rather go on a super team, win, have some people not respect me, than stay in my current situation and never win. And then be teased for the rest of my career like Charles Barkley or Malone or these guys that they always use that no matter what.
Google me, Scott. Everybody knows you were a great player. Everybody knows you were a great player.
You don't know what you're talking about when it comes to
no,
he ain't got to repent nothing. He got to step up and play. We
all didn't have other players carrying us up and down the court. You can yell as much as you want to.
I got 3 finals MVP. How many you got?
There's always this one up on them. So is it worth it to take that risk? Yes. But if you lose and you don't win, man, that fall is pretty steep.
If you are an all-time great, then I would say it's worth it because of the last point that Emmanuel just made, that if you're an all-time great like a Kevin Durant and you have no rings, then it's a stain on you, as opposed to if you're, say, somebody like, I don't know, somebody who is just an all-star type player, but not looked at as like the top of the top, right? If you're somebody who has top 10 talent, then yeah, the expectation is you need to have rings next to your name. And if you didn't, then it's a failure. If you're Kevin Durant, you know within yourself that, okay, when I got to the finals, when I got to that main stage, I balled out and I showed everybody who I was, and I won 2 finals MVPs based on that. So I think at least within himself, he knows that when I was put in that position, I did what I had to do. So it's not like he got to the finals and then he choked. But I think his moves since leaving Golden State just shows that he recognizes that even though he won those 2 rings, he probably is not really that fulfilled. Like, it would feel better if he could go to a team that wasn't already great like Golden State was, and then lead them to a championship. I feel like that's why he went to Brooklyn. I think that's why he went to Phoenix. Like, he's trying to chase that feeling of having that championship that everybody can respect. The last point I just want to make, which is just, it's like a rhetorical question. Whose career would you rather have between Kevin Durant or Kawhi Leonard, right? These are 2 guys who are all-time greats. Kawhi's got 2 rings just like KD. He's got 2 finals MVPs just like KD. But what Kawhi does, and Kawhi also tried to create a super team and failed at it with the Clippers, just like KD has tried and failed with super teams. But Kawhi doesn't have this stain of piggybacking onto some already legendary team that KD has, right? So in terms of the respect, to take it all the way back to your question, is it worth it? I mean, if you need a championship, then I guess I understand you take that risk. But I feel like most people would probably take Kawhi's career over KD's career, because with Kawhi, even though he's had a whole bunch of injuries and he's never won league MVP, that at least this guy you got 2 rings and 2 finals MVPs out of this guy. And when this guy was right, who was stopping him?
I'll take KD in a second over Kawhi, but I'm biased.
Yeah, maybe we could debate that another time. It's debatable.
Okay. Obviously, we all have different opinions on this topic. We could probably keep going forever, as you could see. But I thought this was good. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for joining, talking about super teams. As always, if you watch this video and you enjoyed it, please give it a like. Let me know if you have any opinions about super teams yourself, whether it's the NBA, soccer, any other sport. Please leave those in the comments. And I'll catch you guys in the next video.